I will open the meeting. It is 6:31. We'll start with the approval and, I know this is summer and we don't have long meetings in summer, so I don't intend to make this very long, but I did want to at least start fiscal '25 with a meeting. So let's start with the approval of the previous minutes. They were from June 26th. Sue has gotten them out to us. They are in the folder.
I think that's 3 packets.
Oh, it is, okay, thank you.
I already got my own,
All right,
Okay.
right, so I'm good. I'm hoping you had a chance to read them beforehand.
yes,
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the June 26th meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the
I
minutes.
have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll
I have a
second.
second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. That is a unanimous vote.
Yes.
Yes, oh, that's right, okay, you're right. I got it, Jamie, yes, thank you. I'll make sure I do a roll call. All right. Next up, we have, just want to review the meeting schedule for the coming week, for the coming year. So, of course, we're here in August to plan out this coming year. And this is, so I had put it in, I don't know whether any of you got a chance to see it in
Yes.
the folder?
I did see it in the folder,
Okay.
yes.
So, right, there's the, Jamie, the meeting schedule I'm proposing is in the document folder for today's meeting.
Okay,
So-
I didn't look at it yet.
Yeah, you'll
but
be
I
able,
will.
you'll be able to see it there, but it pretty much lays it out for the third Wednesdays of the month, as we normally have, until we get to the hearing schedule sometime in January and February. Then we've got a couple of extra meetings. But right now, I think that Wednesdays at 6:30, third Wednesdays of the month at 6:30 here in this room seem to work for everybody. So that's the meeting that's the schedule we'll keep.
Hey guys, I have a couple changes for
Yes.
your dates.
Okay,
November would be the 20th. That's the third Wednesday.
oh, the 29th is the,
The 29th is actually a Friday.
oh, okay. So that, I'm sorry, that would be the
The 20th is the third Wednesday.
20th, okay.
December would be the 18th.
18th,
January 15th is fine. February 19th is fine. March, can we do the 13th is a Thursday. Can we do the 12th?
yeah,
And then April, usually we do 2 meetings because we do one.
right.
Or
And
you
that's
guys
why I
look at
left
the
the other.
budget?
I didn't know what
Yeah.
the,
So if you
Planning-
give me, from the last budget, if you give me 2 weeks and want to meet April 2nd, and then you can meet jointly with the Board of Selectmen after that?
sure. So the first April meeting will be the second, April 2nd, you're saying?
Yep.
Or the second
Well,
Wednesday?
it would just be April 2nd, just because then if you
April.
give me 2 weeks from after the last budget hearing meeting,
Yep,
it gives me time to put together like a balanced budget.
gotcha.
Hopefully we have the school numbers by then, we'll have all the state numbers in, so I should be able to have a balanced budget for at least the April 2nd meeting.
Yep,
If not, if I have it in March, I'll give it to you, but
okay,
just in case things are late, it gives me at least a couple weeks after budget hearings to give a balanced budget to you guys.
yep.
And then you can pick when you wanna meet with the board after
All right,
that.
so we'll wait for the Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen to.
And then the,
right.
May would be the May 19th would be special town meeting, so, or annual town meeting,
May
cause that's
19th,
the third
Yeah.
Monday. And then June would be the 18th, that's the third
okay.
Wednesday.
Yep.
What was the October date?
The
October
date.
21st is special town meeting, so I don't know if we would skip our October meeting. You can just meet before special town meeting.
So October 21st is the special town meeting?
Correct.
No, that would be our October meeting.
Right.
I don't see
Yeah.
a need.
And then in September, we'll probably meet, it's up to you guys if you wanna meet twice. We can meet the 18th, and then if you wanna join the Board of Selectmen at the 24th at their meeting to do warrant articles
Okay.
and look at capital together.
Yep, September 24th.
It's up to you if you wanna do both, since we're gonna look at capital
Yes.
tonight.
Yeah,
Okay. So September 18th and then the 24th, that's the Selectmen's regular meeting.
it's the 24th.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's a Tuesday.
Yep,
And then we can play the rest of April's meetings by
Yep.
ear later, but
So you'll
Just a
update
couple
that and
dates.
send that out?
I will update this and send it out, yes.
Okay.
And And I'll be
Can I
sure
ask
to
a
run it by
question?
Ashley first to make sure I got it right.
I was just looking, I was like, oh, some of these are weird dates. But Jamie has a question.
Yes, go ahead, Jamie.
So the 20th of November is the the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, right?
No, the 28th is actually Thanksgiving, so it's a week later. I double checked before I came in.
Perfect.
Thanksgiving
Thank
is
you.
very late this year. Because that was
you.
my question too.
I won't be there for that meeting.
For November?
November 20th, yeah. I'm
Okay.
away. I know that.
Yeah, but my other question was school vacation for February. It seems like that's that week,
It is.
and there's
The week of
so
the
there-
19th?
I know.
Yes.
I know that will be a conflict for me. Maybe others that have children might be conflict too.
We can meet the week before if you want, because that's the budget hearing. We can do the 12th instead of the 19th, if that's better.
That's better for me. Not that I want to dictate
Yeah.
everybody's schedule.
Yeah, no?
No, there's a good chance that, we won't be here.
Okay.
Right. If it is school vacation, yeah, let's.
And that's probably good for the department heads too, because if any of them have, because
Right.
that's who will be coming to your meetings.
Right.
So we can do that. We'll push it up a week.
Yep.
Which works because you push your March up a week too.
Yep. And then the meeting with the school department, that'll just happen when it happens.
Yep.
When they decide, yeah. Okay,
Honestly, you guys might be able to, we might be able to ask them and kind of put it on their mindset if that would be easier for the town side of things, if we put it in their mind of when it would work best for us.
oh, send a request or a letter or
Are
something?
you saying that like that meeting is the one where we do with Dudley, Board of Selectmen,
Right,
Dudley School,
right.
like all,
Right.
everybody? Yeah.
That's why, Jamie, I thought that they would schedule that and we'd work it into, because they've got to coordinate with 5 other departments,
Yeah, that's fair. I just think
yeah.
putting it on their radar from our end is
Yeah.
not a bad plan.
Yeah.
Living through it from that side, I guess the faster the school committee hears that we want to talk to them,
Yep.
maybe the more priority it comes.
All right. Well, that's something that we could send them a note sometime in December, once we get a better
Yeah,
feel.
how do you feel? And maybe Jamie, you're better to ask this question. Would it be better to meet prior to them actually setting their budget? And waiting until after they have numbers from because they can't really do anything until they have state numbers, like us.
Right.
But is it better to meet
Yeah.
ahead of time, or is it better to meet after they already have state numbers?
I would say with the finance committee after, but I would think that Andrew and John Ruda would probably meet with them before,
Yeah.
so that they would have kind of conversations ongoing, and maybe you too, actually, conversations ongoing, kind of what they're facing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually like right after the third week in January.
Yeah, they
It's
usually-
yeah. So like either that's last week in January or first week in February is usually when we're sitting down.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. All
So
right.
we can reach out. I can
So,
email.
yeah, but so we'll leave it blank as of today. I don't.
I'll email them in December.
and
I'll
see-
reach
right,
out.
See what their thoughts are. Okay, good, all right, yes, I will get this changed and posted, and then I'll send it to everybody. All right, so that's our schedule, and that doesn't require a vote. And then I'd like to have a review of the, our goals, our annual goals. And so, I also put that in there, I hope, and maybe I printed it out, if not. I've just got a couple of things that so the last time we reviewed it, we seem to review it about this time each year. We reviewed it July 12th of last year. It's just a couple of wording things, all right? So, number 1 is maintain a stabilization fund at 10% of the town's annual income from the previous year. But we're actually always using the budget number, right? Whatever the previous years. So I'm just thinking we should just change the word income to budget.
Yeah, I
Just
would
to be
agree.
consistent with what we've been doing, okay? That was one. And then the second one is dedicate the first 10% of the fiscal year free cash be voted into the stabilization fund. But I don't know that we've ever been able to hit that number per se. Now,
I want to say maybe the last 2 years we have.
Yeah.
It's been
We haven't
close.
gone off a percentage, it's just been.
right, we never
Yeah.
really use it, and is that really what we want to do, okay?
Maybe instead of a percentage, do you say dedicate money to stabilization before you touch any of your capital items?
I don't know, that's kind of vague, and now,
At least 10% of your free cash to be,
all right, now, but
Dedicated.
now take this year, for example, okay, so on your capital budget, you've got what, 750 in
500
general
Mm-hmm.
and 5 in
capital.
capital,
Yep.
all right? So there's 1.2, right?
The
But
other
what
thing-
would 10% of free cash be?
Well, 320,000
Right, right.
ish.
So, should we, is that a realistic goal to say 10%? Or should we change it to something that makes a little more,
Well, because if you say our average is normally $1.5 million, it'd be 150,000. So we usually
Mhm.
put at least that into stabilization every year.
that's what I'm thinking, is should we have a number instead of a percentage?
I'm good with a percentage.
Yeah.
Are
I
ya?
think a percentage is good.
I think we pretty
Because
much
then you
hit
can,
that every
because
year
then it's,
anyway.
then it's at least scalable. In years
Right.
that you might have a lighter free cash balance, that you're
Yep.
not saying that, well, we set this target that it's gonna be, let's just say we had a year, just saying, if you said we're gonna dedicate at least $250,000 toward, from free cash into stabilization, and it's only certified at 350,000.
Right.
Are we only gonna spend 100,000 in
Capital.
capital?
Yeah. So at least if you leave it at the percentage, it gives you that flexibility. Yeah.
Okay,
And I want to say, pretty much every year we've put at least 10% of free cash in there.
mm-hmm.
Because I think
Well,
it's
just
been
that now-
it's about
now
a
we're-
million,
We're
100,000.
splitting it between two different stabilization
They don't
funds.
look at it
I
like
know
that,
they don't,
yeah,
okay?
right.
And so, just so we all know, neither are we. We're not gonna say, oh, but some went into general and some went into capital.
Yeah.
Okay? We're just looking at adding to the stabilization funds.
Right.
And so maybe the only change there needs to be, instead of fund, is funds, put an S at the end of it,
Mm-hmm.
okay? All right.
Yeah, because I didn't realize there was two.
We actually
Because
technically
it
have
was
3,
fund.
but one of them we don't really
Three.
use anymore.
Right.
We have that fire truck stabilization that's been
Yeah.
here for years. We just don't put
Yeah.
anything into it. Yeah.
Which actually he wants to talk about later.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the goals that we've got laid out here, I think are pretty self-explanatory and pretty up-to-date and pretty easy to follow. So I will make those two. So now I will entertain a motion. So the two changes we'll make to the goals is change the word income to budget in line 1 and change the word fund to funds in line 2.
Just real quick,
Yes.
just to Andrew's point, does it say exactly 10% or does it say at least 10%?
It says dedicate the first 10%.
Do we wanna say, cause that's like a very specific number. Do we wanna say dedicate at least 10%? And it sounds
I
like
would
we've been going over that and are going over it again this year by quite,
Yeah, I would say at least 10%.
Okay.
Because then at least you can scale almost like scale your capital needs first, and just
Mhm.
make sure you don't hit that hard deck of 10%.
is that,
All right, so we're gonna change the word first to at least.
mhm.
Okay. All right, so those are the two changes so far. Any other changes we want to consider? Any suggestions? You guys got any thoughts of, okay. All right, there being none, I'll entertain a motion. We change the goals as we've discussed.
I'll make a motion.
I have a second.
Second?
I have a second over there. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. That is unanimous.
Yeah. Just get Jamie.
Jamie?
She might be in PTO.
All right.
Yes, sorry.
That's
Thank you,
okay.
Jamie. That's fine. Okay, that is unanimous then. All right, so put that one aside. All right, next on the agenda, we just had, well, I had a finance update and a town administrator update, but Ashley has gotten us the capital budget, so we can talk about the, capital budget. You can tell us what you've got in plans so far.
Andrew made a lovely presentation for you guys again.
Does he?
Very, very, very limited. I kind of threw this together at the last minute. I'm hoping to build on it a little bit before our next one, because I'd like to be able to break it down a little bit more into each of the individual requests, you know, especially when we're going to the next phase of talking about it with the Board of Selectmen. Let's see, all right. So just a quick update on revenues. So when we developed our FY '25 budget, we were developing around a projected new growth of $800,000. Just basically using that as a 5-year average, knowing that that was gonna be a conservative number going into it, give us some flexibility when we went into the fall. When we went out the number, we knew we weren't gonna have to cut anything from the budget to try to meet. So now that we've factored the growth from the various large-scale construction projects that are going in town, we're looking at projected new growth to be at least $3 million. Free cash was just certified, I think, what, second in the state?
Well,
So-
second in our reps area.
Okay.
I was second to Walpole.
All right, so, we were certified early this year, $3.266 million, which is an increase of 1.8% over last year. Again, that was after we had pretty much spent down free cash from the year before, so that was a new bill.
Yep.
New invigoration of new growth. With that transfer of capital stabilization account funds for the fire station construction, and these weren't approved by Ashley, so these were like the last numbers that I had. The current balance of capital stabilization sits at $224,000 right now. The current general stabilization balance is about 3.6, so the total of both stabilization balances is 3.49. Our target to reach back to that 10% operating balance in the stabilization goal for '25 will be about 4.04, so round it up to $4.1 million is what is what we would target to get us back there.
Yep.
I just, Jamie is kind of blocking it. I put here what our free cash balance had been over time from FY '21 to FY '25. See, in '21, we were at 1.7, we utilized 1.6 with an end of year balance of 96,312. '22, we were at certified at 1.69, 1.697. We pretty much only left $143 in that at the end of the year. Then in FY '23, we jumped up. Our certification was at 2.8. We used 2.7 of that, leaving about 155 left. And then last year, we were certified at 3.2. We utilized 2.9 of that, leaving $279,000. So just, that's been our historical trend of utilization. We've taken a lot of that and put it towards stabilization too, so it kind of remained as reserve. Just a chart here to show free cash, water stabilization, and sewer stabilization certifications over the years. And then our total stabilization balances going back to FY '22, back when we first established the capital stabilization account. So we originally put $250,000 in there. We had about 2.3 million in stabilization. At that time, we were about 8%. Last year, we got it up to 13.5%, so a little over $5 million, or $5.1 million between both. And then when we utilized that $1.5 million to come out of there toward the fire station project, we're now down right under 10% between the two. All right, now, it might be difficult to see this, but this is basically what you guys have right here is the capital department. So this is probably where you guys want to start your deliberations on where you guys want to go from here, as far as the capital items.
Yep.
Andrew, is it, as far as projecting out into the future, like as some of these projects in town, I guess they're still going, but can you project out next year, like right now, like what, are we gonna be in a similar position where it just seems like we're in a good spot, things are good right now? Is it,
I mean,
is
kind
it
of, but-
impossible, or?
It's very difficult to project free cash. It's,
Yeah.
some of the biggest factors with that is what is the utilization of the operating budget? How much are we gonna turn back at the end of the year?
A lot of whatever revenues we get in, throughout the fiscal year.
Building permits is a big
Right,
one.
building
Yeah.
permits has been our big one. And then the biggest factor is, all of our grant utilization. So the more people use their grants, and a lot of the grants are spend it and then get reimbursed, where they're not front loading us the money. Those are all hits to free cash. So, what the state does, which is nice, in July, August, and September, until you submit, you can accrue for what you haven't received by June 30th, and they don't hit your free cash for that. So a lot of it is me waiting for that, obviously, but it's nicer. So like, I know this year we didn't have any Chapter 90 deficit. Our highway superintendent was very nice to me and waited until July 1st to start spending, which I know is probably really difficult for him, because obviously June, July, August are really his big months for being able to do paving and stuff. But he worked really well, so we had no, which is usually our biggest deficit, because paving is expensive. So that was helpful this year. But it's really difficult to know what people are gonna turn back if, I mean, your three biggest departments, if any of them get hit, especially your police or fire, if they get hit with an IOD, it's so much money in overtime, you never predict any of that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we try to use a 5-year
Yeah.
average model to kind of project where we're gonna be year to
Yeah.
year, at least when we're starting the draft.
Right.
But, if we end up with 3 of those years being, high years, we
Right.
kind of have to tailor that back a little bit and look maybe a little bit further, or take out some of the higher years, so that way we kind of maintain a relative average, so we don't get shocked one year.
Yeah, because I know building permits was a big driving factor the past couple of years, because you've had Amazon permits, I think, all 3 fiscal years. From FY 23, FY 22, maybe at the tail end you had a little bit, but 23, 24 had 2 really big permits in there, so that's a lot of revenue that we don't account for.
Okay.
We probably won't see it
No.
moving forward again, right?
No, not
Right.
unless you have another big project like that,
Right.
but it's all square footage driven when it's commercial like that.
That's why we're developing the operating budget, we're trying to remain as conservative as possible, so that way we're not building in reoccurring expenditures that may be based off one-time hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've talked before, Jeremy, sometimes, how do you forecast it?
Mm,
And yeah,
yeah.
the numbers can be.
It's just, and things are good, obviously, right now,
Right.
and it's,
Right, but I mean, even things like the police department and fire, if you can't predict, can we have a slush fund for that, or you can't do that?
You can't have, no, DOR's very frowns upon an audit, they watch things like hawks. We had a bunch of accidents, I think, with cruisers at the end of the year, and I had a lot of money that had come back for that, because they're waiting for cars, they can't get them. So I
get
have
that.
money sitting from insurance money that had come in, and our auditor was in a couple weeks ago, he's like, what's this sitting here? I was like, don't worry, it's going away. So they look and they ask,
That's too bad, because,
Yeah.
you would budget for the variance and
right,
you'd be good.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, even retirements, sometimes retirements are big hits to us, and we don't, if you don't know about them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
okay.
So I don't know, do you want me to work down? Some of these are kind of new that you didn't see in January, February.
just hit the high points, because this is going to be the gist of our September meeting.
Yeah,
Okay? I
right.
just wanted you, because you just got it out,
Right,
let us all know what's
Yeah.
coming.
okay.
So as we're looking at it over the next month, we'll come back with some intelligent.
So cemetery, I think he had a garage on for this year. The rest of the feasibility, or even just, I think even he had thought more, putting up like a garage. They've kind of tabled that project for now, so he's looking just for a tractor. The community center we've tabled. Highway, the sweeper, which I know he had come to ask for in the winter, and then what's kind of new is the salt shed roof, which is caving in. So that's kind of in dire need of repair. Fire HVAC, that's a new one. He had said his system has failed. He's able to repair it for now.
That's not a whole new system?
I don't think that's a whole new system. That would probably be
It's-
some splits in the building.
So we just put this in as a placeholder number
Yeah.
for now, he didn't get us any quotes, so just try to put a number to it
Yeah.
to start.
Okay.
Skipping his engine for a moment, the alerting system, Andrew had got a grant for part of it, so where you see in that second column that 25,000, so the total of that project is really 100, so 75 would come from free cash, 25 from the grant, which is great. And then, the fire engine, that 850 that you see in that third column there, we're gonna borrow for that rather than dump free cash right into that. It's kind of a better, we can at least
I was just curious why.
make some money.
What was the logic in
So,
borrowing?
right now, the interest rates are pretty high.
Yeah,
So rather than just dumping $850,000 of our money into the engine where I can pay it off over a couple of years, it's better interest wise. I can make more money off of it in the bank than I can, or like in a CD than I would just throwing it at the engine.
Then the
Than
cost of a bond.
interest, yeah.
Is that a
Yeah.
bond or a loan?
It would be we would do a what they call a state house note. They're like a 1 year rollover. The interest rates usually are like 4%. They're not
Oh.
terrible, yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually high.
Yeah.
We were in like the twos before. They're not as bad as like the regular interest rates that we would pay as.
They break it down like a regular loan, term loan?
We usually tell them how long, we would tell our financial advisor how long we want to pay for it. We usually try not to go more than 5 years on them. We'd go anywhere between 3 and 5, and then we just pay it down year over year. We would do like a 1 year pay down.
And what was our
interest.
interest, what was our return on our stabilization account?
I want to say it was just on stabilization was like was it like 11%, I think,
Right, so our
off the top of my head. But that wouldn't, not even just stabilization. Just we have CDs out there that are like 5, 6, 7%.
Yeah, so our strategy was essentially to say, if we took, you know, a large amount of money and put it into capital stabilization, and then had the strategy that as the debt service came off of this, to actually fund the debt service through the capital stabilization account, so that way it was generating more interest than what we were gonna be paying in interest on the bond.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just didn't know we were borrowing at 4%.
Yeah, yeah, it's not, our interest rates aren't terrible when you can do the state house notes. They try to keep them, lower. And we had, the treasurer and I had met with one of our banks the other day, and, because we're gonna do business with them now, and they've been the ones that have been bidding and winning our state house note, amounts anyway. We get a little bit of a lower rate, so that's nice.
Do we
So
have
then-
any notes coming off the books?
We actually do, we just paid the last 3 off tomorrow or last Thursday, I can't remember, but so we have no more, short-term borrowings at all. All we have left is the public safety building amount and then our South Charlton. Those are the only 2 debts that we have, cause the highway garage is paid off now too.
Yeah.
So,
So if we do 5 payments, will it show up as 5 payments on this report when we do it?
it wouldn't, no, you would see it in the budget, when
In
we
the
do budget, yeah,
Okay.
yep.
I'm
So
trying
what
to
would
figure out
happen
a
if
way
we,
to calculate that out for you, I think it was what, 220,000 was the estimate on year
I
one?
think so,
Based
yeah.
off of what it gave us, so
Yeah.
now it's depreciating down from 225 the first year to 175 the
Yeah.
last year.
and what will be really nice is that we're also gonna be going out to borrow for the fire substation at the same time, so you'll be really favorable in the market probably. Even though it's a state house note, you're going out to at the same time, so
Okay.
that would be nice.
So that would hit next year's operating budget, you're saying?
Yes, yep, you'd see it in
The
FY
first,
'26.
the first.
Yeah, you'll see interest and then a pay down of principal. All right, going down to
Well, that's
library.
provided he gets the fire truck before.
That's what I was
Well,
thinking
he
too.
won't, but he'll have to, probably prepay for part of it. It's not really a prepayment, they have to like put a I think it's a deposit down on the chassis
Oh, okay.
to get the rate, to lock in at a price.
Oh, I get you, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He won't have that probably for 2 years,
Right.
at least.
Are we still on police cars?
Yes.
Yeah.
He hasn't gotten all his police cars yet.
They've been trickling in, I think he's just gotten like 4 of them between
Yeah.
the ones that were wrecked and the ones that were on order. But I
Yeah.
don't know if I don't think the ones that were ordered in October have come in.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, wait, no, hold on. We'll follow up on that,
Yeah.
because they might have already come in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
I
just
know
curious.
Jeff just got a bunch of laptops, but I don't know if the last cruiser was in, I think he's still waiting.
The 2 years were bleeding together with the delay from the
Yeah.
year before, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Highway ordered big trucks, what was it, almost 3 years ago now, and I think he just got them, like, a couple months ago. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, library, fire pond, cistern system, so we had put 70,000 towards that last town meeting. We went out to get quotes, one person bid and it was much higher than 70,000, so that's where the extra 50 comes from, so hopefully when we go back out, somebody bids on it. The generator is a design, to put a generator over there, cause that will be the backup, what's the word I'm looking for?
EOC,
Thank you.
Emergency Operating Center.
System, so if,
Oh, okay.
if we ever had like a big emergency in town, that would be the backup, so they would need a generator over there if we didn't have power. And then the only change, which I
Is
forgot.
this the primary right now?
So right now, we
Yes.
operate Town Hall as a primary EOC. It's not well set up for it.
Right.
There's a lot more room over there to be able to utilize.
Yeah.
Yep,
The only change I'm going to make to this, which I forgot to, is that ADA improvements is really 6,000, not 3,000.
Sorry, I
Forgot
had
to
an
do
error on
that.
my sheet, I just noticed I put 75 on
Oh,
this, it was supposed to be
50.
50. Yeah.
so she just had some issues with her doors, I think in the back, they weren't ADA compliant, so she's just looking to fix those. And then when we get to municipal buildings, just putting some money back into town hall improvements, again, we've put money into all of our other buildings, this is probably the oldest building that we own, like to keep it. So just putting some money towards that to do some more maintenance here. Number two.
Excuse me, but where are we with record keeping in that whole archive
We've been-
idea?
We have a
Scanning.
lot of stuff scanned in, so
You
I know
have?
we have the money that's still set aside that from years ago for record, for
Right.
renovation downstairs.
Right,
Still sitting there now that we have a facilities director, once he kind of gets his feet under him, that's one of the projects that he has on his list to kind of push that forward a little bit. But we've done a very large push in getting, paper copies scanned in, so that way
Yep.
they're searchable in permanent record versus
okay.
It's nice,
downstairs,
yeah.
insearchable.
Right. Not like, oh, where did this box go from 15 years ago?
Right.
Good luck finding it. Number two, schoolhouse. So we had a matching grant for that one, that we got some money on, but just looking at some of the things that are going in that building, we just need some extra money to do repairs to that building to keep it up, because otherwise I'm assuming we're gonna lose the
Yeah,
building.
it's
Andrew knows
mainly,
more.
it's mainly structural repairs,
Right.
so so last year we had, put $50,000 in as for matching grant funds.
Yep.
The grant that we were going for, we ended up getting, once the engineers started looking at it and seeing what was listed as a critical, update, it was like, yeah, okay, we got the maximum grant, but we're gonna need more than just the maximum grant to actually do the structural work. So if we put another $100,000 into it, we'll be able to
Yep.
actually make that building structurally sound.
Yep.
And then we just had this emergency come up downstairs. The drain for the dishwasher and everything down in the senior center is gone. They had it failed the other day. I think they did a little bit to repair it, but when the plumber was here, he's like, yeah, this needs to be fixed. It's all rotted pipe, I believe.
Corroded
So
out.
he gave us a quote. It was a little bit less than that, so assuming by the time October comes, we're gonna have to get 3 quotes. It will be around that dollar amount, so hopefully we can get that fixed for them. The facilities vehicle will be used between facilities and cemetery. We had planned originally to try to buy a truck back from water sewer that they have, but they're gonna continue utilizing it, so, this was a lower ask before, but now, that would be the price for a new vehicle for them. And then, the radio system, that should be the final dollar amount to get us done with the radio
We've been
system
working on that for
improvements.
years.
Right,
Yeah.
so, was it back in 2021, we had put about $250,000 toward that. Most of that work, I'd say probably about at least 80% of that, say, that fund went toward 80% of dispatch upgrades, so all new, furnitures, fixtures, all new systems and everything in there. The last 20% of that we took from ARPA funds to get it through. And then the next phase of that was full system replacement, so towers, microwaves, repeaters, going to a whole new P25 digital system where right now they're on analog. So the total that we put toward from ARPA for this project was about $1.2 million that we have sunk into this from ARPA money. So I think the last item that came up was essentially the purchase of the microwaves systems to talk to them, and that just pushed me over the limit. So that's right. And talking to our consultant, that 250 should get us
Get us
to
there.
get us to full implementation.
Yep.
All right, and then PD, normally his normal cruisers with their technology in it, and then I have a placeholder in here for him for firearms. I think that's upgrading all of their firearms, so he's hoping, I talked to him earlier, this is plus or minus the 30, maybe, they haven't gotten their actual quote yet, they're waiting for their vendor to get back to them. So I told him I'd put a little placeholder in there for him. And then
How
computer,
about the, since we're in police, the camera and the cloud and all the rest of that we were working on?
he's got that up and running,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is all up
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't require any, well, of course, that's a not, yeah, that would be an operating cost, that
Oh, you mean the body
ongoing.
worn
The,
cameras?
the,
Yeah,
yeah, the
that's-
software
yeah.
costs,
This- Right,
is in his
that's an
budget.
ongoing operating.
Yeah.
okay. But we're done buying things for that.
Correct.
I don't
Right.
think we even had to buy, I think with the body cameras they got on a grant, so all
Right.
we had to pay for was the cloud software, yeah. And they did the automatic upload as soon as you pull into the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
and I believe Jeff just got us upgraded for some Wi-Fi, cause I don't know if they were having a little bit of a bog issue in town, so he was just talking to me in the hallway yesterday. So he got the Wi-Fi upgraded, so now when they pull in, it shouldn't bog as bad,
Mhm.
so up a little faster. And then just the normal IT network replacement stuff. And then down below, you'll see, we're gonna put more money into OPEB. Again, we did fund 150 in budget, so then another 150 would get us to that $300,000 mark this year, so that's
Mhm.
great. Gonna put 700,000 into stabilization from free cash, and then we're gonna put $500,000 into capital, and that's from that, extra in,
You do 250 in OPEB?
maybe we did
wanna
do
pay
Yeah,
250.
250.
I thought we did too.
Yeah.
You might be right. Maybe I'm thinking last year's budget. I'll
Yeah.
double check, but I think you're right. I think we did do 250. So it'll give us even more. So we have the 500,000 for capital. That's gonna come from operating budget. So that's the, what Andrew said, we had about 3 million in new growth.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 800,000 minus the 3 million. So we're gonna try to spend the 560 of it. So 500,000 into capital. And then the additional officer, which I think I explained in my email, what happened is we have an dispatcher out. We don't know if they're coming back, when they're coming back. So the chief came in, said, can I just post for another dispatcher? And then he came back, he said, I have an even better idea. Which now obviously has to go to town meeting, but he said if I can get another officer, which at some point he's going to need anyway, he can put the officers into dispatch to cover dispatch, and then if dispatch for some reason didn't need another body, we could also put the officer out on call, so that makes the officer do two things he's able to do both. They can cover dispatch but also cover calls, so it's a dual utilization person rather than paying for a dispatcher that would be primarily stuck in dispatch, and then if that dispatcher that is out comes back, you now have an extra dispatcher, which he says he might not permanently need right now. When the substation opens, he might permanently need somebody, but at least now if you have the officers can still cover, or even bathroom breaks, like he has the flexibility with somebody.
Is that building capable of handling?
Well, thankfully, they're not living
Realistically.
there.
Right.
So,
Huh?
They're not living there.
yeah, so, but,
They live in their cruisers for 8 hours.
yeah, so I mean, obviously, things are tight over there, you know, when we talked about the parking lot, you know, as being one of his requests, you know, the problem is we can't, there's nowhere to expand the parking lot, you know, so they're really, up to their necks with parking, you know, with the,
Right.
available parking over there, so we're trying to figure out what's best. I mean, dispatch, admin, they're the ones that are kind of in that building all the time. Everybody else is kind of cycling through, so there, you have some flexibility there. Is it the most ideal setup?
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Right.
Is it worth the cost? I think in the future, it's definitely gonna be a consideration.
Okay.
And I'm gonna assume the 60 also includes health insurance, so that 60 isn't just salary, it's for salary and health insurance,
Okay.
so benefits.
Yeah, we're gonna double check these
Yeah.
numbers. A lot of these were the initial requests.
Right.
Okay.
And then I have some placeholders at the bottom for water sewer. I don't have dollar amounts from them yet, but they're looking to, do some updates.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
If I could.
Yep, we got you.
Okay, Jamie?
Oh, did we lose you?
Jimmy, you got no audio. Let's see.
She was breaking up a little bit.
Oh, she's asking.
Oh, what town hall improvements are? Is that what you want to know? I'm assuming yes. Oh, Jamie, you're breaking up.
We can't hear you.
Jamie, can you type out your question?
Oh, maybe she did.
Oh, does it include benefits?
We're gonna double check, but I believe it. I think I did the math briefly the other day, and it should, because it won't be a full year of salary or benefits. Because realistically, by the time he hired somebody, he's probably not gonna. They're probably not gonna start until November.
At least, yeah.
So it should include both, but I will double check. If you guys agree to go on.
Did that
I think
answer
she
your
asked-
question,
I think
Jamie?
She asked another one. There's another chat in there.
So, I don't think it was necessary. Sorry, Jamie.
Sorry, can you, I was just writing into the chat because it seems like maybe my connection wasn't letting you hear me. But I just also wanted to know, does it limit the applicant pool if we say it's a dispatcher/officer?
My understanding was no, because it wasn't gonna be just this officer that would be utilized on dispatch. It would be any officer qualified to be on dispatch that he would
Yeah.
utilize, so it wouldn't be just one person all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll go if everyone. No one. Do you guys? Let's address. Do anyone have questions on general fund stuff first?
No, not right
Okay.
at the moment.
Just quick
At least
for.
I don't, and like I
No.
said, we got a month
Nope, I
to
looked at it
review this.
earlier.
and-
Right. Just quick on enterprise fund, because I don't have dollar amounts.
Yeah.
So the two for sewer, they're gonna look at some pump station upgrades on North Main Street and some plant head works upgrades project, for that. So I'll get dollar amounts for those two projects hopefully soon from them. And then they're also looking at, doing the, and I don't know what street, but they're up the street, there's a water.
Kitty corner from CVS.
Okay. There's
Blue
a
tank.
blue tank up there
Yeah.
for water, so they're looking at fixing that tank so it adds the pressure to the system down here. So we can utilize, and it will
Okay.
actually pressurize the system, which will solve part of the problem we've run into with the
Right,
fire
so-
substation.
The one that's, looks like it's like really, really old.
Yeah, your backyard.
Probably.
Right.
On 20, you can see to the right, so essentially what my
It's
discussions
repairable.
with them was looking at, you know, I think they're looking at the feasibility between replacing the tank or building a tank next to it, that's appropriately sized to the system, but also to include their, the ability to retreat the water at that point. So our biggest issue, one of the bigger issues that we have with our current water system is that it's sitting in the line so long that it's losing its chlorination. So you get to the end of the straw and there's really nothing left, so just by the amount of time, and that's kind of what limits our ability to increase, you know, to expand the water system. So if they have the ability to treat from the tank at that location, it resets the clock as to how long that water is good in the line for. So we could potentially push it out further, potentially, you know, expand down 20 toward Oxford. Again, it depends on what the size of that line is, if that one's appropriate, but it gives us more options for growth.
And it will help, I know the school,
Yeah, and the pressure issues at the school.
so it will help this loop.
I did
And
notice
potentially
that
down
as
20.
I'm driving up and down 20, that it seems that they've ripped out some of the old water pipe that actually looked like it was rotten. I don't even think, but that was never filled with water at any time.
My understanding is that they put it in anticipation of at one time tying into Oxford and then
Right.
ran into issues with that.
Yeah.
So,
But I also saw they lined the road with all brand-new pipe.
hmm.
So they didn't just rip out what was there, putting
Right.
in the new sewer and drain
Right.
it. It looks like they're gonna reinstall
Right.
the old water pipe now, whether or not you can fill it, or
Mhm.
who's gonna use it if it's all
Right.
the way down, you know, to backward in.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, okay,
So that's where we stand
yep,
as of now. With everything.
yep.
Do you wanna add anything?
No, I mean, I just kind of put in some real quick stuff,
Yep.
so with the OPEB,
Oh, you have 152.
What's that?
You have 150. Oh, is that now?
No, that's, I ignore the first column, I just
Okay.
use that as a control line. So with the free cash, again, not audited by her yet, but with OPEB, we have a target, net liability, or target liability of 8.7, right now we have 2.8. That was according to January's
Okay.
actuarial report.
Okay. I don't,
So
off
it
the
is
top of my head, I don't
probably
know.
higher than this with interest, but,
Okay.
based off the last numbers that I had, we're at what, 25%?
I'll know
funded?
for sure in a couple more weeks because we'll get our OPEB
Yeah,
audit
yeah,
back.
we're
but-
funded up to almost 25% of our liability,
Based off last year's.
Right,
sta-
right.
uh,
which is
update,
still light years ahead than
Yeah.
everybody else.
They actually did ask me, because I had to send all of our information out at the end of the fiscal year to do our OPEB audit. And they're like, are you doing a new funding mechanism? And I was like, well, actually, we've been putting more in there, because you're pretty far ahead. So we just tweaked that a little bit to say that we'll fund at least
Yep.
our minimum contribution, but we could fund more if we have the opportunity, so.
So just in case you guys hadn't seen, okay, as Andrew said, we're at almost 25%. And what I've read is most towns in Massachusetts are below 10%.
Is there a threshold they have to be at this?
I think they have to be fully funded by a certain year.
I thought it was 2040.
Yeah, or 2042. I don't know why
That's
that
what
number
Donnie
sticks
used to
in my
say,
head.
is we
Yeah,
had to be
somewhere in
funded
there.
by
Yeah.
a date like that.
I
Okay,
don't
so
know
there's
what
no
the implement.
minimum up to this point, but,
So what happens is when
no, I
they're
love that we're,
OPEB doesn't, I assume, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume everyone has to go through an OPEB audit every year. Maybe they don't, I don't know if that's right, but we do. And they come back and they say, okay, in order to meet your target contribution date, or the target contribution date that is set, you have to fund at least this dollar amount. So I don't know if every town does that, but I would assume that's where their numbers come from, if that's what they have to do.
Right.
So I would assume, I just don't know what the implementation is if we don't.
Yep.
If somebody were not to meet that, I don't know what the state will say if
Yep.
you're not at that amount.
Yep.
Cause like I know every year in our audit, we get written up, cause Worcester Regional isn't close.
Right.
They're pretty far behind.
is
Um,
that target a moving target, or is that?
It's all based off of.
Yes.
Employees,
Current employees' salaries, it's your long-term.
yeah, and retired employees.
Yeah, it's your long-term liability for,
Benefits.
yeah, your health insurance benefits.
Yeah, and life
Essentially want a
insurance.
trust fund in place that pays for it in perpetuity instead of you budgeting for it annually.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
The biggest risk that you run is whoever's running that trust, okay, makes some very bad investments. And then all of a sudden the fund shrinks and now your liability increases because
Right.
you still got all these retired
Well,
people.
Just like every
What's good-
corporate pension plan in the
Well,
country that.
so
That's
it's-
exactly what it is.
What's different about the OPEB cause now that we're holding it, it can only be invested in certain pools of money, and I assume all the retirements in Massachusetts have to also follow that same, it's bound by Mass General Law.
Yeah.
So it's not as volatile as like
Yeah,
as
it's
like,
fairly conservative.
yeah, as like if you were to just go invest in the stock market, yeah.
Bonds or something,
Yeah.
not the stock market, I would hope.
Yeah, no.
And then just with stabilization, we have that target of just about 4.1 with this funding strategy, but we well above, that. And then again, that's just general stabilization being over 10%, not including
Right.
the capital stabilization. We'll be over that. We'll be over our target by about $200,000.
Yep.
And then capital stabilization of $500,000 will be up to a relatively healthy balance of 724. Right now, we don't have a target on that, so it's really hopefully a growing fund for our next big need.
Mhm.
And where does that put you said we were at like 13 point something last year, we got down to 9.6 in total stabilization based on what we had to pay for the station, where does that put us as far as a
Let's just
percentage?
Do quick math on that.
So you want total, that's the total number here, if you wanna do the quick math off
Is that
of it.
back up to, that wouldn't be totally back up to,
Just
be
use
like 11 point,
40 million as the.
As the budget, yeah.
about 12 maybe.
12%, 12.7, almost 13.
Mhm.
Okay.
Cause you'll be at about 5.1 million total in stabilization.
Mhm.
Yeah, so even after that, we'll still have a available balance for free cash at,
You're a little under a million now.
yeah, 9.69 million, so again, as we go through this, we might be able to pick some back up, and then, excess levy capacity of $640,000, so. Kinda outline at the bottom here what our excess levy capacity has done over the last, 4 years, so FY, yeah, so in FY '21, we had $9,148 left to
Okay.
budget. FY '22, we had $10,962 left to budget. FY '23, we had such
like
little.
$1,000.
We had, hold on,
It was like 400. So that says.
$420,
Yeah.
and then FY '24,
We had like 700 and
we.
something
yeah,
thousand.
what's that gonna show? Come on, get there.
Oh,
Move it just a little bit.
I want to say it was like 720,000.
I'm gonna take your number, yeah, about $720,000
Plus or minus.
in excess levy capacity that we didn't pass on to the residents, so.
Yep. Yep.
So we wanna try to keep that buffer, especially now that we're getting these big new growth hits.
Mhm.
And so that way when we get, you know, increases in our budget, you know, in future years, we can capture it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not in a bad spot where we're telling
Right.
us,
So when you have the excess levy, it means you're not taxing to your
Right.
fullest capability.
Right.
Yeah. Just
Right. But, so I better understand, all right, so we're not taxing this year to our fullest abilities.
right.
And you can't, but you don't really carry that forward, do you? Because you still can only go up a 2.5%.
so that, from that point, that essentially excess levy capacity point, our next, amount is 2.5% above that,
Right.
plus the next year's new growth.
Right.
That's our
Okay.
next year's capacity.
Right.
I got you.
So it still goes off that top. So if you only taxed to 500,000, but your levy was $1 million, you still get the 2.5% on the.
Yep.
And then next year, if you don't tax to the full levy, that's where the excess levy capacity comes into.
Gotcha, okay, okay.
And that becomes kind of an area of contention sometimes when towns go a long time without utilizing their full taxing capability,
Right.
and then
And all of
jump
a
and
sudden
utilize
hit
it
one.
all.
Because it seems like a
Yeah,
bigger
you
hit to
gotta
the
watch out for that.
taxpayer.
Then it's a huge jump.
That is.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay. All right, I just had this impression it was a use it or lose it kind of thing after a time frame, but
Yeah.
it's not really.
No.
Okay,
You know, and a lot of that too is, you know, what was the debt exclusion we had on the highway barn? It was
What was how much total was the project, or how much was it a year?
Was it the last year, $250,000?
It was 180 plus like
Yeah.
$15,000 for interest. So yeah.
Yeah, so in reality, we didn't utilize the debt,
The
the
debt
debt
exclusion,
exclusion on
right.
the DPW garage the last year of it.
Right.
yep, yep, okay. And none of the financing for the new fire station hits the operating budget till,
You'll see maybe a tiny hit that will absorb in the levy in FY26, and then for FY27 is when you should start seeing the debt exclusion piece come on.
yep, okay,
Only because timing, if I go into next fiscal year, or if I end FY25 in the hole in that, they hit me for free cash.
Yep.
And that will be a big chunk, so we have to borrow before the end of the fiscal year.
Yep.
If we spend anything on the project, which we will, so we'll borrow sometime in the spring, and then that won't be a hit to free cash, cause now we've borrowed for it.
what's the timeline on the building, how's it going?
So right now, we're still on track. I still just have to finalize the conveyance of the property with the schools. I'm waiting on a deed. So the lot itself has been created, at the registry of deeds. I now have to work on conveying a deed between the town and the school district, so that way we can own the property. Right now, we're looking at bids to be coming in, mid-November, awarding a contract mid to late December, and, hopefully breaking ground sometime at the beginning of the new year.
Mm-hmm.
And then 18 month, you know,
Yeah.
Kurt tells me to say 24 month, but I'm gonna use the contractor's schedule 18-month construction period, so
Okay,
Plus or minus.
plus or minus.
all right. What else in town do we need to know about? Now it's open. We've covered all my agenda items, unless you guys
Yeah.
got some agenda
I
items.
had one thing, and this
Yeah.
was in the minutes from last time, and it's not a rush at all, because we're,
Oh, I do have your, let me go grab it while he updates you on some other stuff. I got my desk.
He
It's
didn't
not-
even tell
it's
you
not
what he's
even-
looking for.
But you want budget? Yeah.
just, yeah, the
Oh.
examples of,
Oh,
not a big deal at all.
What was you looking for?
It was just if we can get consistent with how the departments, give us their budgets,
Oh, yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
And just looking at some examples of, how they prepare them. Ashley was getting them.
In the prior year and the percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but
a good
it's-
way to look at. If they're all the same format, it would be easier, you know?
Yeah, not a huge deal at all, though.
Summer's been very project heavy. We've had Maynard Field project that is getting paved today. We had a deadline at the end of the month to get that.
It's getting
squared-
paved?
Paved, yeah, paved. So, essentially all ADA upgrades, so ADA parking, ADA walkability, brand new snack shack, all outside of the debt that was approved 7 years ago for this project.
Yeah, you were saying that last.
Yeah, we're finally at the point of getting it done with days to spare before the Architectural Access Board came down on me. So the last outstanding piece is after today. I'm hoping after this meeting I can go take a look to see how the paving came out, but it should be just painting the lines. And the builder is been on site building the new snack shack, so they have a new foundation. That's all in. Majority of that cost was paid through by the money that we got from Amazon. Sidewalk project,
I was gonna say, and the sidewalk also was
Yep.
through Amazon.
that's been pushing along. That was exclusively through the Amazon funds, and,
Yep.
and I think that's just phase one of a larger plan that we have for sidewalk development. They're looking at by next week starting to actually do the concrete work for the sidewalks. They're well aware of our timeline with Old Home Day and wanting that nice and pretty by then, so it's not an active construction site that time. The radio project, that's been moving along. Towers up, Bay Path's been great partners in getting that done. Essentially, right, what they had was a little 1970s microwave, or not microwave, was it a radio station pole that was just off the side that we had a little attachment to, and
Mhm.
so now we have a 70-foot tall, or a 75-foot tall tower behind our ball fields.
Okay, yep.
Dedicated just for public safety radios.
Yep.
And on top of that, that includes repeater over at Amazon, another site over on the north side of town, so we're really boosting that coverage for their network. Northside School, that's project's been going on, we're on a timeline with this Mass Historical Commission. Library roof, that's been
Yeah,
another
saw
project.
that.
That's a headache.
That's project's been a headache. I think it's been a headache for the contractor too. The integrated gutter system has not been a great thing.
Just, was that a bad design or a bad construction?
There's bad shingles.
The bad
The
gutters.
design was not ideal. We had to meet the new energy code with the roof, so that required a whole new redesign and rebuild of basically the whole structure. We had looked at putting external gutters in lieu of the internal gutters, but it was gonna be more costly. I think right now, our consultant's been looking at expansion joints, because there was no expansion joints in the last,
In
in
the
the other
main?
gutters, which led to some of the leaking. So they've been trying to figure out the best way to integrate those. So they've run into some issues, some changes, managing it.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we have a very knowledgeable consultant on board that's keeping a tight eye on them.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie just said that there was a decent amount of chatter regarding a needed cell tower at CMS.
and it's been on our radar for a while. The problem is we don't own or control the cell companies. They kind of go where they want and where they feel they need it best. We have the tower there available. If they want to attach to it and figure it out, more than willing to let them, but I've been in contact with the Senator, State Rep's office. I know they're looking at doing cell repeaters over at the schools to try to boost that service, or at least trying to force Verizon and cell carriers to do that. We're well aware of the cell coverage issues over at the schools and trying to figure out what the best approach is, but we don't have a lot of skin in the game when it comes to mandating and doing anything.
Mhm.
Don't worry, JB, I have talked to Jen.
All right, so I only made one copy, but.
No, that's fine, just,
So this was the old spreadsheet, obviously, which has all the detail, and that was the ClearGov version, which I made, I think, after our first meeting, because I added the percentage. So this is what I download out of ClearGov for all the departments when they come, and then this is the old spreadsheet that the departments used to do. Some of them still do. That's just the difference between the two. So some of them still do update this and give it to me, some of them don't.
Is
Like your
this,
smaller departments probably don't, but your big departments still do.
is this the same department, or is this,
No,
yeah,
this is
different?
Council on Aging, and then this was police.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
I can pull this same thing out of police, it would just give you,
Yeah, I'm
basically
wondering,
like this bold line here, you would get that detail with, up here, so it would say like police wages, FY '24, FY '20, or be like 25, 26, and then percent change.
yeah,
So this is more, obviously a lot more detailed, because it tells you what they're
Right.
spending everything
And I
on,
do- and
and
I-
how they get to that end number, this is
Right.
just the end number.
and I do really like that detail.
Yeah. So this old spreadsheet, I used to have to take all of these and manually input them into our big
Right,
spreadsheet that we did.
which is a pain.
Yeah.
But
So
the,
some of your big departments still do update this,
yeah,
your police, your fire, your highway, IT. Your bigger departments do, like your small departments that usually ask for the same thing minus the COLA increase every year, don't do it anymore.
yeah.
I can ask
I
them
don't
to, if
know,
you
I
guys
don't know
rather
if you guys
see it,
wanna look
but.
at it,
Well,
or
just-
how you feel about it, but,
load those into the meeting
Dropbox,
folder
okay.
for tonight, so we can look
Yeah, I
at it.
can do that.
Okay.
can you do
upload
them
this-
both from police?
What they would look like,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Same,
because
yeah.
police is, I
Yeah.
think, a good example of. Yeah,
I'm curious as to what your impression of your tour of Amazon was like.
World-class facility. You would,
sounds like it.
when you go there, it's entering a whole different world. They really know what they're doing, and it was very impressive to see how quickly it came together. And I know that they had some early projections as to when they were gonna be opening, but, in seeing the progression of that, and kind of the economic times they were doing it in, it flew. They had at least 500 people on site every day working in. There was a few times I went there, or talked to their guys between weeks, and it was a completely different site every single time, every time that you went. Just, an absolute world-class operation. I think they're gonna be great partners to work with. They've been great to work with through the construction process. They had a great, GC putting it together. My communications with Amazon directly have been good, and, they put me in touch with the right people, so. I think any challenges that we have in their startup, we'll be able to work with them close and identify them.
I think the article said that their intent to open it by the holidays. I think that was the
Yeah.
timeline, just the holidays was.
So I think the big thing with them is the scale of what they are essentially turning on is enormous. It's a giant machine in there. They have to start inputting, like bringing product in, and which will probably take a little bit amount of time before they can actually start spitting product back out. So, they're doing a lot of testing and stuff, a lot of empty boxes of just sending them through the system. A lot of still building out systems, but I think more toward the, October, November timeframe is when they'll actually start getting product in. It might not be until the first quarter next year till it actually starts coming back out.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, I don't think any of us have ever seen anything like that, except you,
Scale,
Mm.
yeah.
just the scale of it.
Yeah,
Just to move that much stuff through a building that size.
Kurt showed me a picture of the robots the other day. They're literally like giant Roombas. They're really cool looking.
It's unreal.
I was about to say there are 3,000 per floor,
Yeah.
and there's 4 floors. So,
Yeah.
And they, generally do it without error. I mean, you get the right product, it's stuff is pulled and.
Even if they get 0.5% error, that's still amazing,
Right.
still amazing.
it's-
I hope someday maybe they'll have tours.
Well, we were talking, to them, and I think, what we had the other day was very much a limited, like, we just wanted the town leaders to come up here and take a look at the facility, give them we're still an active construction site, but this is what we're doing. They're talking first quarter next year doing a larger ribbon cutting, whether or not that's gonna be open to the entire public, we'll see, but,
Yeah.
say, Amazon has a very, very methodical approach to everything that they do,
Yeah.
so.
You get that big because you're that good.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got? Anything else? Jamie, any questions before we adjourn? No, she's probably busy.
No, thanks, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right, you guys get anything else?
Nope.
Good, all right. Do you want to bring up anything, Ashley?
No, just
No?
was full speed ahead until we closed. So
right.
it's,
Okay.
this was a breathing week.
Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second?
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes. Jamie?
Yes.
It is unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, an hour and 10.